I'd like to call the Community High School District 128 Board of Education meeting to order November 18th, 2024. We'll start by joining me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Everyone stands for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Everyone returns to their seats.
Thank you. Carol, can we have a roll call, please?
Jim Batson.
Here.
Kara Benjamin. Don Carmichael.
Here.
Kara Drumkey. Lisa Hessel. Middleish Cotwall.
Yep.
Sonal Kulkarni.
Jim Batson.
Okay, we have a quorum, so we will continue. We start out this evening with a little student recognition.
There's not going to be any.
There isn't. Okay. Well, moving on. Invitation for public comment. Mary, have we got anyone signed up?
I'm signed up.
Rebecca Gables approaches the podium.
Yeah, come on up.
Hello, my name is Rebecca Gaples, and I have a senior at LHS as well as a graduate. Congratulations to all the teachers, staff, administrators, and board members for achieving exemplary status on the Illinois School Report Card. The past year has been tough, and when there are challenges, I think it's easy to forget or not appreciate how amazing our district is. Since the Illinois School Report Card began, offering us summative status in 2018, both Libertyville and Vernon Hills High Schools have consistently achieved this exemplary designation, placing them in the top 10% of all high schools in Illinois. This is an outstanding accomplishment, especially when compared to other top performing schools, such as Stevenson, New Trier, Lake Forest, which have had schools that occasionally drop to a commendable rating. While these districts are excellent in their own right, this comparison underscores the exceptional consistency and commitment that makes D128 such a phenomenal district. In addition to our top-notch academics, our district boasts an impressive range of fine arts and athletic programs, along with diverse clubs and activities that enrich our students' experiences. As a parent volunteer, I see firsthand the dedication and care our teachers, coaches, social workers, and all the other staff bring every day, and I am grateful for all their efforts. With this level of commitment and collaboration, I am confident our district will continue on this path for excellence. I thank you to everyone who played a role in making this achievement possible.
Thank you very much. Would anyone else like to address the board? Okay.
John Hetzel approaches podium.
John Hetzel, good evening. I think what Rebecca said was appropriate. I've said all along, I think the teachers have been the glue that held this thing together the last 4 years, in particular the last couple, as some things unwound at the administrative level with the superintendent. First of all, I want to say a couple things. Last board meeting 2 weeks ago that I was at in Libertyville, I asked several questions. I received no response with answers to those questions since that time. So I'm hoping tonight some of those answers will be obligatory to do so, versus being dismissive and not saying they're valid, because they were very valid. They were important questions. One of the questions was about the Vernon Hills High School roof installed this summer. And Dan was kind enough through a FOIA docs and Mr. Kelly to provide me the contract, but it's still very unclear whether or not there was a clause in the warranty for the installation for future possible solar panels. And another noteworthy issue was their substructure built, because if it was not, then that will be an expensive fix with the taxpayers' money. Maybe Dan, you can answer that for me if you know more than I do. I'm having legal review right now on it to see if it is in there. I can't seem to find it, even though you identified that one spot. It didn't seem clear to me, but that doesn't mean I'm an expert at it. That's why I have my own legal review looking at it. Also, these PowerPoints that you continue to present on performance, they're really hard to follow. in my business career, as a product manager with Sunbeam, and then going all the way up into the ranks of vice president for several large sporting goods companies. Personally, those wouldn't cut mustard because they're very hard to understand and follow the presentation, the graphics, the information. Plus, the information seems a little skewed in specific areas. So I want to make sure that hopefully you guys can prepare information that's a little bit more understandable to this community, because it's really gobbledygook. And it's been that way a while, and it's been brought up before. So at this time, those are the couple of things that I have on my plate that I wanted to discuss tonight. I'm looking forward to more performance data that's more drilled down. I did ask for some performance data to be included. Person that just spoke had mentioned that, you know, our scorecard looks great. Sure, when you throw in CPS, everything looks great. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else want to address the board?
Marnie Navarro approaches the podium.
Hi, good evening. Marnie Navarro, lifelong Libertyville resident, proud District 70 and 128 graduate, mother of a incoming 6th grader, future Libertyville Wildcat. I apologize, I'm running late. I just sprinted from the District 70 meeting. It's kind of inconvenient to the community that we have them on the same night on top of each other. We can't make it to both. But in any event, I just came from District 70 where they reported back on their Illinois report card. And I got to tell you, we're really blessed at District 70. We have a fantastic superintendent named Rebecca Jenkins. She came into District 70 just a few short years ago after Matt Barbini was ousted, who incidentally came from the same search firm, Exec Connect, that brought us Denise Herman. And she and Carrie Bongo and her team are really killing it. They show improvement in each one of these areas, including IEP students. And they really showed and demonstrated tonight with the data. Our District 70 schools are among the highest in the state. And Copeland Elementary, where Olivia graduated from, is rated #1 in Lake County. So it really showed with specificity how when you devote the time and the money and the hires on specific tangible results, it yields results on each and every category. I would encourage this board and everyone in this community to watch the recorded District 70 meeting that's going on tonight, specifically the report on the state report cards, and then juxtapose that to what we're going to hear tonight in the data. I also wanted to mention that today closed the filing petitions for the school board elections. They closed at 5 p.m. today. And as of 5 p.m., there are 7 candidates running for every time. There are 7 candidates running for 5 seats on the board. As I mentioned last time, so 5 of 7 seats are up for election on April 1st of 2025. We previously discussed that in this search for the new superintendent, there was a discussion as to whether it'd be a closed sort of forum or whether there would be a time and a place where the candidates could meet and speak with the potential superintendent candidates. Since we know that it's such a small group, there's 7 people running for 5 open spaces and only 1 incumbent, Mr. Cotwall, who incidentally was only seated by appointment in the fall of 23. The community should know he did not vote. He was not on the board that voted to re-up Superintendent Herman's 5-year contract. He also voted against her buyout. There's only 6 additional people who are running for these seats. So it will be an entirely new board with the exception of 2 seats beginning April 1st, 2025. So I hope there will be an opportunity. I'm running for one of those seats and I would appreciate the community's support. Thank you so much. I do also want to note that for, the school board positions are volunteer unpaid. So we do thank you all for your service. I know it's an incredible investment of time, energy, and difficulty and personal expense. So we do appreciate that very much. And we look forward to the presentations this evening. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Anybody else wish to address the board?
Amy Franz approaches the podium.
Hello, my name is Amy Franz. I am a retired teacher, former board member, and current parent of a senior at LHS. So I just wanted to bring up a couple things in response to, I know you guys are going to be making a presentation about the state report card data, which is great. I want to kind of focus then a little bit on the next steps as we think about moving forward, and one in particular. One of the things that was mentioned was to strengthen inclusion efforts to ensure all students access to rigorous grade level courses. I agree with this wholeheartedly as a former educator, special educator as well, but I really want to get into the details of how do you plan to do this and how do you plan on measuring the success of this? Access alone, as you stated in your goal, does not equal inclusion. Inclusion means providing the appropriate entry point for all students so that they can achieve their best. I reviewed the state report card data myself. I went onto the website, and I know we'll be able to hear your interpretation as well. Unfortunately, I can't speak after you guys present because there's no time to speak for the public afterwards. But in all grades, there was a 28-point differential for ELA proficiency for students with IEPs than with those without, and a 26-point differential in math. Over the last year, this number has gotten worse. In math, it went from a 34-point differential to a 43-point differential this year. So proficiency numbers have been decreasing for our students with IEPs over the last couple of years, really ever since the pandemic. So what are we going to do specifically across our entire equity continuum? So all of our subgroups need to be considered, and we need to think about how are we going to address these gaps specifically. The data for Black and Hispanic students for ELA proficiency and for math proficiency also dropped between 2023 and 2024. We've done a lot of really hard work, and I know you guys are doing everything you can, but even with a very comprehensive, high-level plan, we are not seeing a lot of improvements in academic performance in these subgroups. So I think as we move forward, what are the takeaways? Overall, I think we really have to think about, we need to look at data and set specific, timed and measurable academic growth goals. Our special education practices need to be updated, and our MTSS, as we know, we're working on this, needs to continue to be considered at a very high level with an operational plan across a long period of time. I think what we're doing right now is good and it's helpful, but we're throwing life rafts out to students, which is great. And we need that. They need your support. But we need to look at an overall system. How are we going to approach this over a period of time? And how are we going to make sure that we're going to achieve results for all of our students here at D128. So thank you very much for considering.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Pause for the public.
Okay, moving on. We have a teacher union report. You're up.
Nikki Oshevsky approaches the podium.
Hi, I am Nikki Oshevsky, the treasurer of the D128 Federation of Teachers. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to speak on behalf of our union tonight. Tonight, I'll share a board report of union activity written collectively by the Union Executive Board. Let me begin by giving a very brief MTSS report. Back on April 29th, I gave a report using the proposed MTSS platform to demonstrate how trust has been broken down between the district administration and the D128 staff. Since that report, a lot has changed, including the administration leaders and the implementation of the new MTSS program. There are facets of this program that are going well and some areas that definitely need improving, but I'm happy to report that our administration is listening and hearing what the staff is reporting about the MTSS program. At the building level, administration is trusting teachers to make decisions on how to best support our students in both the PAUSE program and the Content Lab program. At the district level, Dr. Tom Kalentis is taking an active role in the process by visiting teacher classrooms so that he can see MTSS in action and make more informed decisions about the direction of the program. He is also forming a joint committee between admin and the two unions to explore the structure and staffing that has been established for student support and reflect upon what has been learned during this first year of the MTSS program. We hope that these discussions will continue to rebuild the trust level between the staff and the administration as the MTSS program evolves. Switching gears, on November 7th, we met with a member of BWP Associates to give our thoughts and answer questions geared towards finding a new superintendent. We appreciated this opportunity to share our voice and to add to the conversation about the specific needs for our staff and a new superintendent. Our union exec board believes that our involvement in this process, as well as the involvement of all stakeholders who were also interviewed by BWP, shows another step in rebuilding trust. Throughout the superintendent search process, we ask the board to strongly consider including multiple stakeholders in the interview process, as each one has a different pulse of our individual schools and the district as a whole. Lastly, this past Wednesday, Monica Caldecott and Paul Carnstead, President and Secretary of the D128 Teachers Union, traveled to Springfield on a contractual union release to attend a rally to speak with legislators and advocate for fixing the Tier 2 pension system. For context, any teacher hired in Illinois in 2011 or later is relegated to the Tier 2 pension system, where, among other issues, they are not able to retire and collect their pension benefits until age 67, a full 10 years after Tier 1 members. Also remember that our teachers are not eligible for Social Security, so our Illinois pension is all we have. About a third of our teaching staff is Tier 2, and with every retirement and new hire, this issue will soon affect the majority of our staff. It is important that this subpar retirement system is fixed before it damages our members. As a union, we are getting involved in important conversations around the Tier 2 pension system and ask that the board, district administration, and community also consider supporting the Fair Retirement and Recruitment Act. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak on behalf of our union tonight. Our union executive board has hope and optimism that we will continue to rebuild this trust by working together to strengthen our district. Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate those comments. Moving on, we have, I understand the educational support professionals will not be speaking tonight. If there's anyone out there that has a report, okay, just double checking. Okay, I'm going to review the agenda real quick. We're going to follow this by our student school board representative reports. We'll have review some FOIA requests. We'll have a superintendent's report. And in that report, we will also invite Dr. Joe Porto to give us an update on the superintendent search. He's the one of the individuals leading that process. We'll have a consent vote agenda as indicated. These are items that we've discussed in committee and or regular items that happen on a routine basis. Action items tonight, we have action on the school calendars for 25-26 and the 26-27 school years. We have some curriculum proposals. We have a few employment of employees, communication platform recommendation, our tax levy adoption. That's probably one of the biggest things we do during the year. And then a 5-year agreement on with Pepsi. And then we'll have some informational items, as a number of people have alluded to. We'll get a report on our Illinois school report card data. Looking forward to that. And we'll go around if the board has any comments and events to discuss. The IASB report, I'll give a brief update. Kara, anything from CEDAW? No? Okay. And then we'll review some future agenda items, and that will be it. So,
can I ask a clarifying question?
sure.
You said we're going to take action on the calendars for, excuse me, 25, 26, 26, 27.
Yes.
My understanding is that we've already approved 25,
26,
26. So we'll only be taking action
That's
on
true.
26, 27.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're they'll both be
presented,
but,
right.
Just as a reaffirming the 25, 26. Also, just to clarify, does anyone have any items on the consent agenda that you would like to pull out? Okay, just to confirm. Okay, moving on then. Item F here, student school board representative reports. Take it away.
Pramacharya.
Extracurricular clubs at LHS continue to enrich the academic life of our school, providing students with valuable opportunities for growth, collaboration, and achievement. Today, I wish to focus on 2 clubs, Model United Nations, MUN, and Science Olympiad. These clubs, along with many others, contribute to a diverse extracurricular landscape that benefits students in countless ways. Model United Nations has been preparing for several conferences where students represent countries or people and engage in debates on global issues or smaller issues. Recently, the team participated in the St. Ignatius Model UN conference, bringing home multiple awards. Timothy Cornea, who earned outstanding delegate at St. Ignatius, said, "Model UN has helped me become a better public speaker and debater, as MUN is closer to real life due to its less structured and more realistic format. MUN hosts meetings for members every week, helping them build foundational skills in diplomacy and debate, ensuring all students have the tools they need to succeed in the future for future conferences and beyond." Science Olympiad has been growing this school year, with the team actively preparing for their competitions. They recently competed in an online competition where students strengthen their skills and their events before the upcoming tournament in Palatine. Science Olympiad students collaborate on a variety of events ranging from biology to chemistry, physics to entomology, and more. Beyond these individual clubs, LHS has a large extracurricular scene that plays an essential role in students' educational journeys. From the Scone Thugs in Harmony to DECA, NHS to Philanthropy Club, there's something for everyone at LHS. Clubs like MUN and Science Olympiad, along with other organizations, have fostered an environment where students have been able to explore their passions, develop critical skills, and form meaningful connections with others. This diverse array of extracurriculars not only enhances the academic experience, but also encourages students to become well-rounded individuals prepared for success in any field they choose. By fostering a culture of academic and personal growth, LHS's extracurricular scene is a great part of preparing students for the challenges and opportunities of their future.
Victoria Diaz Martins da Costa.
Good evening, everyone. I hope everyone had a great day. With Thanksgiving fastly approaching, I would like to talk about what students at LHS are thankful for this year and their appreciations. Students have reported to have been specifically thankful for the events that we have had this year, such as football games, homecoming, Halloween, and many more. One event that all seniors claimed to be especially thankful for was homecoming and powder puff. Sophia Thedos, a senior who is part of the dance team and orchestras at LHS, reported that she is especially thankful for her human anatomy class and her teacher, Dr. Kreutz. She expressed how Dr. Kreutz is the best teacher ever and makes it interesting and fun to learn in a different way. One thing she was the most thankful for at LHS was the school atmosphere. She described the ambiance as exciting because everyone is passionate about being a Wildcat, which makes it fun and exciting to go to sports, clubs, and everything. When asked what celebration she enjoys that the school does, she answered with, "Link Crew does a tree where the freshmen write something they are thankful for and put it on the tree, and it is so cute." Payne Soling, a senior at LHS, and her sister Riley Soling, a sophomore at LHS, agreed that what they were most thankful for is being able to see their friends and being able to learn with each other. Payne reported that the class she is the most thankful for at LHS is AP Spanish because she enjoyed learning a new language these past 4 years and learning more in depth about another culture. While Riley, on the other hand, has been the most thankful for her AP Psychology class. Riley is also thankful the LHS curriculum is so wide and students have a lot of different options to choose from based on their interests. Both sisters are the most excited for LHS's famous Hot Cocoa Friday tradition. Last but not least, Sophia Taj, a sophomore on the varsity girls tennis team, is the most thankful for her literature class and her teacher, Mr. Tooley. She explains how he makes the class fun and actually interesting to learn. She agrees with Payne and is also thankful for the students having so much liberty in the classes they choose, but also thankful that the school starts at 8:45 a.m. She expressed gratitude in the veteran celebration that LHS had last week, and she excited for the holiday decorations that will start soon. Students are grateful for the opportunities that LHS has to offer and continue to be excited for the new changes that will come with the renovations next year. Thank you.
Syra Abraham.
Good evening. Today I will be discussing student perspectives on the wrap-up of many successful fall activities. To start, LHS sports teams have seen huge successes in the recent seasons, with multiple teams and individual athletes going to state. To name a few, boys cross country, girls swim and dive, and boys golf all sent down teams to compete at state events. Not only are these athletes making history for themselves, but also for LHS, as it has been many years since LHS has sent down this many teams to compete at the state level. Ellie Schaefer, one of the many swimmers who qualified, expressed her love for her sport and gratitude to the great closing of her season. She says, "I'm so fortunate to have come on this journey with both my coaches and my teammates. And as a senior, I'm very proud of how my final swim season has ended." Additionally, some of these athletes celebrated their future college plans on signing day, where Libertyville students who were committing to a college to pursue athletics had the opportunity to officially sign with their college alongside the support of their family and friends. Lena Jagodowski, a student committing for tennis, said, "It was a very memorable event because it gave me the chance to formally celebrate how hard I've worked to end up at this moment. It was also an amazing bonus to have my friends, family, and school directors who have helped me get to where I am today in the audience supporting me." Overall, signing day celebrations seemed to be an exciting day for all students, whether they were the ones committing or supporting their friends. Shifting over to fine arts, LHS's musical, The Little Mermaid, was a big hit. This year's musical was a show filled with vibrant characters, unique staging, and eye-catching props. One freshman says, "It was super fun to be able to paint and decorate the set to fit the show. Being in the musical was an amazing experience, and I'm very excited for the shows to come." River Thompson, an actor in the show, says, "This year, the show was truly taken to a new level. Not only did we have a very talented cast, the cable mechanisms that allowed the cast to fly helped to make the show an unforgettable one." Similar views were had by those in the audience, one student even saying it was the best LHS musical they had seen yet. In all, with the wrap up of most of the bigger fall activities, students are moving into the winter activities, whether it be athletics, fine arts, or more. Even through the many positive experiences LHS students have had participating in their fall activities, many are excited to take a break during winter to focus on academics before final season rolls around. Thank you. Now to Griffin so he can tell you about the Vernon Hills.
Daniela Gomez Anez.
Good evening. I'm currently losing my voice in advance, so just a heads up. This past month, BHHS has had lots to celebrate. Starting with athletics, sophomore Camila Tamarkis and junior Paulina Mashiva advanced to state for tennis. Additionally, senior Livy Tron and junior Sofia Komolari competed at the state finals for diving and swimming. Livy Tron shared that she's pretty bummed about not having the best meet, especially since it was her last diving meet ever. However, she described the experience as super exciting and high energy, particularly on day 2 when the stands were packed and she felt surrounded by supportive coaches, teammates, and other amazing athletes. Despite her disappointment, she earned a remarkable 12th place finish, an amazing accomplishment. Lastly, for athletics, our unified soccer team became state champions. Moving on to clubs, Dare to Empower raised an impressive $1,000 for breast cancer awareness. Meanwhile, our ESL students, led by advisors Mrs. Rogner and Mrs. Wasserman, are working to collect 1,000 canned goods for Vernon Hills Township Food Pantry. They're hoping to reach their goal during the Best Buddies annual Thanksgiving event this Thursday. To attend, participants are asked to bring 3 to 4 canned items. Finally, 2 weeks ago, our community navigated election season with an incredible grace. The day before Election Day, Dr. G reminded us over the intercom about the importance of empathy, as election results can bring a wider range of emotions. Our staff did an amazing job of fostering a respectful, unbiased environment while still acknowledging the significance of the event. Specifically, in our government classes, Mr. Voss hosted a pro-democracy party celebrating the privilege of having a voice in our government, and the pizza was absolutely delicious. Now passing it on to
Griffin Nichols.
Good evening. We at Vernon Hills recently had Snowflake, an event where we partner with middle school north and south to promote self-awareness, social awareness, and responsibility. Our students at Vernon Hills apply to be leaders in this event, and this year we had a huge turnout. I had the privilege to be a leader for Snowflake, and I'd say it was a wonderful time. The kids learned about themselves, their peers, and what the future has in store for them. Plus, they got all the pizza and candy that they'd ever want. On another note, Vernon Hills has had many food events this month, from the taco challenge to the marketing classes selling cookies. I'm sure you guys saw the posters all across the hallways. all the way to our very own Officer Dan coming to speak to our foods class and to teach them about his famous chili recipe. Ending it off for me, we recently had a superintendent search group for students. I believe only us, the board reps, alongside our executive student council, were there. Many thoughts, inquiries, ideas, etc., were brought up. It was very thoughtful discussion that I believe will prove very fruitful in our search for the superintendent. Passing off to Iman.
Eamon Diala.
Good evening. Following our incredible fall musical, our Backlight Theater Company is already back to work with their winter plays. This year, there will be several plays to watch, including Audience, The Con, and This is a Play, starring students in all grades. In addition to our wonderful theater program, our chorus has recently sang at the annual choir concert on November 7th. Festival goers stated that the music was a delightful experience. On the academic side, we recently hosted the AMC and Seal by Literacy tests. Vice President of Math Team, Zoe Mehta, talked about how her time on Math Team helped her prepare for the AMC and how it provided her with a unique perspective in order to solve the problems. Last year, Mehta even advanced to Amy, the next stage of the American Mathematics Competition. As for the Seal by Literacy, this year we had students come in to take the Apple and STAM test to prove proficiency in their languages. Some students shared that they did this to either prove proficiency in the classes they were currently taking or to show proof that they could speak their native languages. Finally, Vernon Hills has recently celebrated Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and Diwali. For these celebrations, administration played music in the hallways, and additionally, tests were moved off these days in order to respect students who elected to not come into class. Anya Gupta, a senior, says it was the first year she didn't have to worry about schoolwork and that she had more time to celebrate with her community. Personally, I think that the teachers have been making a very conscious effort to still support students even though they no longer have their own religious holidays off. And I'm very proud that we've worked to keep up a school culture that remains empathetic at these times. All right, thank you.
Thank you. It's always enjoyable to hear what's going on in the buildings, especially through the lens of the students. It's great to hear all those things. And a lot of talk about pizza. You're making me hungry. Moving on, anyone have any comments or questions from the other board members? Moving on, FOIA requests. There's a list of FOIA requests here in the board packet that's available. Any comments or questions about those? Okay, then we'll move on. The superintendent's report, and actually, we're going to intercept the beginning of the superintendent report and introduce somebody that's going to talk about the our future superintendent. That's Dr. Joe Porto is with us, and he's going to give a brief update on the search activities related to our superintendent search.
Joe Porto approaches the podium.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for letting me come. As you know, I've been trying to keep you informed along the way with weekly updates, but it's nice to be able to come talk to you in person and give an official update. I would say that things are about exactly where we would like them at this point. So I'm going to do a little bit of where we've been and where we're headed, and then open it up for any questions you might have. You might remember the first stage, the first major stage of the search is what we call community engagement. And the purpose of community engagement is just that, to get the entire school community, parents, staff, board members, administrators, to get everybody's input into what makes this a special place, what are some of the challenges the new superintendent's going to face, and what are the characteristics and traits, leadership qualities that this community particularly recognizes and appreciates. So there's 3 parts to community engagement. The first was to do individual interviews with each of the 7 board members. And we're proud to say we had 100% participation, and we wrapped that up the week of October 21st. The second part of community engagement is, well, we like to call it the day in the district, but it was a little more than a day this time. We had 2 community open forums, one here at this high school and one at Libertyville High School. And then on, those were November 6th and 7th. And then on November 7th, my team and I came in and we spent an entire day in the district talking to focus groups. And those focus groups represented all key stakeholders. We talked to administrators, teachers, parents. Um, my most favorite group, one of your students alluded to already. We got to speak to some of your student leaders. So we heard all kinds of interesting concepts and ideas during the focus groups. Those were successfully completed. The third and final piece of community engagement was community participation in the survey. Your staff did a phenomenal job publicizing the survey and getting all different constituency groups to participate. The survey actually ends tonight at midnight, I believe. So there's actually still time if you haven't had a chance to do that. But we have had wonderful participation. The numbers I got this morning as of noon today, we had 1,273 surveys completed in English, another 6 in Spanish, 3 in Russian, and 1 Ukrainian survey, for a total of 1,283.
And not to interrupt, if anyone wants to complete that survey, if you just go to the website, it pops right up and asks you to fill out the survey. So.
Still on till midnight. 1,283 might not mean anything to you, but I can put this in perspective. I've had districts 5 times your size not have a number of responses like this. We did the city of Pittsburgh, and the city of Pittsburgh didn't have this many responses. So I want to commend not only your staff for publicizing it, making it easy to do, but thank you to the community for taking us up on the offer to participate in this process. Now, once those 3 things are completed, which I said will be as of tonight, those 3 aspects, the board interviews, the focus group data, and the data from the survey, we're going to be synthesizing that all into one report. It will be a public report. We will present it publicly here at your board meeting. It's going to be on December 9th. My entire team will come. We'll have a little PowerPoint presentation, make it kind of snazzy for you. And what we'll be doing is we will share the results of the focus groups. So we will have synthesized that data. What did we learn that day or two? Then we will have a summary of the survey results, and you'll have all that data. And then we put those 2 things together and we create the superintendent leadership profile, which is going to culminate in about 8 to 10 bullet points, which will describe exactly what we're looking for in this search. As I've mentioned too, just to refresh your memory, that leadership profile then becomes the guiding force in everything we do. We don't ask for all that input just for show. We do it to develop a unique profile. Your profile is different than any others that we do. Each community comes up with its own unique spin on what they need at this moment in time. We'll use that profile once we present it to you on the 9th. I'm going to ask that your administration put it up on your website. Let everybody take a look to see what the results say. Let the candidates take a look, because good candidates are checking out your board meetings and your website. And so we want that all out there so everybody knows exactly the guiding forces. We use it for recruiting, of course, but also as we get down to interviewing and assessing the candidates, we base our questions off of the leadership profile points. We craft the questions and we assess the answers to the questions based on that. We'll share all that good info with you during a training session, and you'll hopefully guide your interviews around those leadership profiles and make your final choices accordingly. So that's really exciting. On December 9th, we will have basically the community engagement leadership profile all done, ready to go. The second big phase And these aren't linear, by the way, because the second phase actually started at the same time as the first phase, because we started recruiting immediately. But now that the profile will be done, the next step is really, really heavy recruiting. Now we have an even clearer idea of what your district needs, and we'll be fully engaged in the recruitment process. Currently, your posting, your vacancy notice is listed on our own BWP website, which is available for people around the country. The Illinois Association of School Administrators, the IASA website, is very, very popular among the Illinois educators. But you wanted a national search, so we made sure we also posted on AASA, that's the National Association of School Administrators, the superintendent organization. And then the Illinois Association of Latino Administrators and Superintendents and the National Association of Black School Educators. Also, we made overtures, have postings there because like your community, it's a diverse community, and we'd like to bring you a fully diverse spectrum of candidates to consider. We wanted to reach out. All of those postings are still up. Most of them were good for 60 days. So we posted them soon after we had met with you earlier, and most of these are all still up and fully operational. In addition, we have it advertised on LinkedIn in two ways: through your own district LinkedIn account and through our LinkedIn account, so that we can get the word out that way as well. So we feel really good about the official postings. But as I think I mentioned when we very first spoke to you about what we do, now we're even more heavily into personal recruiting. And this is one of the areas that I think our firm really shines. We have a very large network. We know just about every superintendent and most of the administrators in Illinois, and starting to get a big footprint around the country as well. Now that it's coming clear what exactly we're looking for District 128, we're starting to pick up the phones. Between myself, Victoria, and Phil, we've probably made at least 12 personal phone calls to people who we know are sitting superintendents, successful superintendents, might not even have been looking for a job at this point, but we put the bug in their ear, got a really good job. It's got your name written all over it. Take a look at it. So we're doing a lot of that right now as well. So that leads us into the final steps. The final steps are going to continue that heavy recruiting to about December 12th. December 12th is when the applications are due. By the way, to apply, people apply online at our website. And so we see applications as they come in. We're constantly taking a look and screening them as they come in. But when December 16th, 12th comes and the deadline's over, we'll take a really deep look into all the applications, and we'll choose, it's usually about 12 or 13 initial people to bring in and screen. It would be the people using our rubrics that we think match best with your profile. We'll bring them in for an initial screening interview. We'll craft questions around your leadership profile. We'll assess those candidates. And when we're done with that process, which is going to start, we're probably going to do our screening the week of December 16th. So we're keeping this moving right along with the calendar that you agreed to. So during that week, we'll do the screening and make our decisions. And we don't have any magic numbers. It tends to work out to be an average of 6 people are usually what we consider the slate of candidates. But I was talking to one of my partners today, and he's doing a search. They're bringing 7 candidates to their board tomorrow night. And I've recently done one where we only had 5. We thought there was a big drop off in quality between the 5th person and the 6th person. So no need to just make an arbitrary number. But for purposes, we like to tell the board, be ready for us to bring you somewhere between 4 and 7 candidates. We've got that meeting set up on your calendar for January 13th. So on that day, we will meet in closed session. We will bring you the names and profiles for those 6 people. We'll give you all the data, how many people applied, what states did they come from. We'll tell you a little bit about each of the 6 candidates and why we thought they were closest to your profile. And we will bring some paper, application documents for you to take a look at electronically and get you prepared. The second half of that same meeting will be for us to talk to you about interviewing. And we don't ever mean to insult boards that I know many of you have been involved in interviewing, but some of you might not. So we're going to take you through how to develop the questions. We're going to come with a question bank for you. One will be some generic questions, but the other will be specifically built around your leadership profile. So those will be very targeted. We'll help you develop your questions for those first rounds, and we'll take you through some legalities and so on. And then you should be ready to go. The round 1 interviews you've got scheduled for the week or for January 16th, 17th, and 18th. You'll meet each of the 6 people in about a 1-hour interview. You will hopefully reach a consensus after meeting those 6. And again, no magic numbers. Many districts bring it down to 2 finalists. I'm working with a nearby district right now. They have 3 finalists. So again, no magic number. The final step then would be for you to have a second interview with the 2 final candidates, or 3, however many you choose. And then you'll be making your decision from there. Your second round is January 22nd. So you should have your decision made by the end of January. That will give you time to work out a contract with you and your new superintendent. And hopefully you'll have a meeting sometime in early February, and you'll be able to announce it and introduce the person to your community. And it's wonderful. It still gives you several months of the school year to plan appropriate transition activities. Ray and Becky will be fabulous resources for the new superintendent. Using vacation days and so on, there could be some key days that he or she can come to the district and take part in certain events. The idea is for him or her to hit the ground running on July 1st. So that's my update. Wondering if you have any questions for us. We're feeling really good about where it's at. Most importantly, it's right on schedule. And again, we want to thank the district's just been so cooperative, and that's what's helped us keep everything right on track.
Thank you so much. Anybody have questions or comments for?
Thank you
Sure.
for the update. With the school board conference coming up this weekend, will someone from BWP be at the conference?
Yes, Phil and Victoria will be there representing this search team, plus about 5 other partners for our firm. And we use that conference to do personal recruiting.
I would imagine.
Everybody's there,
I would
lots
imagine,
of superintendents. We have a luncheon that we host, BWP, and we've invited some people to that we can talk to. So yeah, that's going to be a very big part of some personal recruiting.
Yeah. Since it's fertile ground, if any of our members or administrators meet someone or approached, is best practice to put them in contact with you?
Yes, I'm really glad you asked that, because sometimes board members feel like, I don't think we're supposed to get involved or whatever. We like it. If you find good people, give them their names, give our names to them, and have us contact us. And you give me a call or give through Ray and Becky, let me know who you talk to, and I can reach out to them as well.
Great,
We
thank you.
would welcome that.
Great.
Joe, is it best to give the emails that you shared with us individually with our team, or just the general BWP email?
No, please give our personal emails. Yes, any one of the 3 of us would be fine.
Momentary pause.
Anything else?
Anything else? Just to reiterate, you spoke about the December 9th
Yes.
meeting, just so that the public understands that's our committee meeting night, and that will be located at Libertyville High School in the library at Libertyville High School. So if you want to attend and see some of that information, feel free to join us at LHS that evening.
I'll have the survey data actually tomorrow, but if you don't mind, I like to hang on to that, not to add to the suspense or keep you wondering, but it actually, we feel better about being able to present it in the context of all three parts of the community engagement rather than to just parsing that out to just one of the pieces.
Yeah, that makes
Is
sense.
that all right?
Okay.
Okay.
Anybody else? Questions, comments? Okay. Thank you so much
Thanks,
for coming
Jim.
out and giving us an update.
You bet.
And now more superintendent report.
And more good news to share. And on November 2nd was the state championship for unified soccer. And guess what? District 128 was in the finals. In fact, on November 2nd, the District 128 Storm Black Unified Soccer team defeated the District 128 Storm Blue soccer team 5-2 to win the state title. Both of our teams had impressive semifinal wins that led to the championship game. Congratulations to all the team members who did this. The state championship team, the Storm Black team members include Ben Penderson, Liana Furman, Alexis Galiagos, Jude Donegan, Chase Miller, Parker Natal, Thomas Weiseneth, Ty Sniff, and Luke Angelos. Second place team, the Storm Blue team members included Charlie Sampson, Hazel Morales, Noah Hewitt, Haley Spytek, Zach Gilfriend, and Alex Williams. Congratulations to these teams. Next, tomorrow afternoon, the LHS Echoes Club will celebrate the installation of 2 interpretive signs that are part of its ComEd Open Lands grant. At the celebration, they will unveil the interpretive signs, recap the progress towards the restoration of a native shoreline plant community, and discuss their next steps. And finally, last Friday, November 15th, was School Board Members Day in Illinois, our opportunity to thank our school board members in District 128. We want to give them some recognition tonight. They've earned providing a local voice for our community in their educational decisions that we make. Our board members take this responsibility not for a paycheck, but for their commitment to our community and its children. Our board members are volunteers who act as frontline advocates, providing a local voice for the community, a vision for the district, and a pathway to success for our students. Our board members act to safeguard 2 of our community's most precious resources, our children and our tax dollars, while striving to create the best educational environment possible with the resources that we have available. Our school board members wear many hats. They are education leaders, policymakers, contract negotiators, budgeteers. They are also our neighbors, our friends, and District 128's biggest fans. Our board spends multiple hours each month on district work, attending meetings and other responsibilities that most people never hear or read about. And I personally want to thank all of you members of the District 128 board. And we have some certificates to present to you. Jim Batson, Lisa Hessel, Dan Carmichael, Kara Benjamin, and Kara Drumkey, Sonal Carney, and Middlesh Katwal. Thank you so much for your dedication to our students, staff, and community. We're going to present those certificates now, and we're going to take a picture right here. You could step up.
The board takes a group photo for about the next 30 seconds.
All on the right. Thank you.
Everyone returns to their seats.
And that's all I have for this evening.
Thank you very much. Next on the agenda, the consent vote agenda. Again, these are items that were either discussed in committee earlier in the month or are routine items that we take action on each month and or each year at this time. We have a motion to approve this.
Hessel, motion to approve the consent vote agenda as presented.
Kotwal, second.
Okay, any discussion?
Hold on.
Benjamin. Oh, did you
Aye.
say that? Yeah. Carmichael.
Aye.
Drumkey.
Aye.
Hessel.
Aye.
Cotwall.
Aye.
Batson.
Aye. Motion passes. Moving on, action items. I'll turn this over to Dr. Carmichael for items coming out of the Program and Personnel Committee.
Okay, very good. All of the items for action tonight have been discussed with the exception of the employment employees. Those were added later. So we did see all of this at the P&P committee meeting. The first item, the school calendars, we are reaffirming the 25-26 and then approving the 26-27 calendars this evening. And I will turn it over to Tom Calentis to give us some background.
Yes, thank you. As was discussed, the 25-26 calendar you have approved previously, but every year we take a look at it in the fall to make sure that there has been no changes that would warrant the board revising anything with the school calendar. Of particular note this year was our review of student and staff attendance on the religious holidays that were mentioned earlier tonight by our student board rep, specifically Rosh Hashanah and Diwali. And we looked very closely at the data on those days. October 3rd and October 4th were the days when Rosh Hashanah was celebrated this year. And we had approximately 94% of our students in attendance, and we had approximately 96% of our staff in attendance. On October 3rd, we had 24 staff absences that were related to the holiday and 197 student absences. On October 4th, we had 4 staff absences related to the religious holiday and 71 student absences. So we did not meet any of the thresholds on Rosh Hashanah this year. On Diwali, our numbers were very similar to October 4th. We had approximately 230 students absent, but that equates to 94% of our students being present on that day. And we did have 4 staff members request off for religious observance on Diwali. As a reminder to our community, as a district, we set thresholds of student attendance being 75% and staff thresholds of being 88%. So we did not exceed any of those for these particular holidays. As our student board rep did mention, our staff continues to be very mindful, though, of the practices that we put in place to support students during those days. We have other days coming up on our calendar that we'll continue to remind students, staff, and families about. But because of these numbers, we are not recommending any changes to the 25-26 calendar as you've previously approved it. That turns us to the 26-27 calendar. We discussed it at length at the committee meeting last time. In particular of note is simply the Memorial Day falling on the very last day of May, which meant that our typical time for graduation would have put us out with about 5 to 7 days prior to the Memorial Day holiday. That felt early to the members of the calendar committee as well as to our school. We looked at a variety of options to move the graduation back and then to build those days that we added back into the calendar as vacation days or holidays that we wouldn't typically observe, specifically Columbus Day, Indigenous Peoples Day in October, and Casimir Pulaski's Day in March, as well as attaching an extra day on spring break, an extra day on winter break, and then creating a floating holiday in April. So There have been no changes to that calendar since committee. It is our district's recommendation that the board approve that calendar.
Don Carmichael.
Very good. Yeah, I'll start with the motion. Can I have a motion to approve and adopt the 26-27 school calendar?
Batson, so moved.
Second.
Okay, and then for discussion, if anybody has any questions at this time. And then I would just like to thank the committee. We have 20 or so people who get together, give up their time several times a year. And I did have the opportunity to go to one committee meeting this year. It is amazing how many competing interests there are for days. And so the committee does take a very thoughtful, deep dive. And I'd like to thank you for that work. Okay, let's have a roll call, please.
Carmichael.
Aye.
Drumkey.
Aye.
Hessel.
Aye.
Cotwall.
Aye.
Batson.
Aye.
Benjamin.
Aye.
And the motion passes. Moving on to item B, this is the 25-26 curriculum proposals. There were a number in the packet. Again, I'll turn it over to Mr. Clennis.
Yeah, thank you. As we discussed in committee, not a lot of brand new courses this year. The focus of our district was really on creating greater alignment between course offerings in Vernon Hills and Libertyville. Specifically, there are a number of adaptations to courses in our career technical education programs. Many of these were designed to bring alignment, but also to advance student opportunity to earn dual credit or college credit for taking these courses. We also streamlined a few courses that had multiple levels, and each level was not enrolling very well. iOS app development, instead of offering a beginning and advanced, we met with the instructors and we felt that it was better to align that to just one course that would draw both beginning and advanced students, and that they would be able to learn together in that course. We also streamlined our accounting program to try to get more students to take accounting and to revise our business program from being heavily focused on entrepreneurial skills to being also focused on finance pathways. Many of the curriculum changes and adjustments that you're seeing have been designed to set the table for us to continue to create official career pathway endorsements from the state of Illinois. And we will be bringing some of those forward. Our curriculum proposal process is two parts. There's a spring portion and a fall portion. So we're concluding the fall portion, but when we pick it back up in the spring, we anticipate there being some new courses coming forward and some new career pathways coming forward for discussion and ultimate board adoption.
Don Carmichael.
Very good. Thank you, Dr. Clennis. So can I have there we go, motion to approve the course modifications for the 25-26 school year as presented?
Hessel, so moved.
Benjamin, second.
Then I have just one question, Tom. For the kids that are taking the iOS app development course, so normally they would take app development 1 and then they would take app development 2. If it's the same course, how does a student get additional time with that instructor? Like, they can't sign up for the same course twice.
Right. So the way what was happening was we were offering a beginning course and an advanced course, and we weren't getting enough enrollment to oftentimes run both of them. So we were having oftentimes to collapse them to one section. What this does is it allows there to be an instructor and to offer that course. I don't know if students would be able to take that course a second time. But what we find is that most students only take that course once. It is a 1 semester course. So you could take it, I believe, I'd have to verify this, Don. But if a student were to want to take this again, like because they've got a love for it and they do it as a beginner and they want to stay in it and take it as an advanced, I would have to see what options we would have for that. It seems like something we'd be able to accommodate, but I don't have we're not going to have like an advanced course on the books that they would take. So that's something I'd have to look into.
As the question was coming out of my mouth, I was thinking, well, maybe there's some kids that are actually taking courses like in the summertime, or they have some background experience in app development, and then this is still an attractive course for them.
Yes, that's what we were seeing, is that we might have 5 or 6 students sign up for the advanced and 8 or 9 sign up for the beginning. And by themselves, both those courses wouldn't necessarily run because we try to hit a target of 15. But when we combine them, we would get a good number and we could run the course. And what we find in talking to the instructors is the students who are beginners, many of them move very quickly to advanced level, don't need a whole semester to wait until they move to that. And then students who have some previous skills come in as advanced and would be able to take it without taking the intro section, so to speak. So it's just a way to create more access for students of various levels of skill. A lot of schools offer this as something called mobile makers. We've gone away from that and we offer our own course where our teacher works with students to design projects beyond the mobile makers curriculum.
Very good. Well, I trust those teachers to make the curriculum decisions that they're making. So very good. Are there any other comments?
I just wanted to confirm, it didn't look like there were any changes from what was presented in committee, because you did quite an extensive and detailed review 2 weeks ago in committee. And in my review of the packet, it didn't look like there were any changes to what you presented. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Thank you.
Very good. We've had a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Drumkey.
Aye.
Hessel.
Aye.
Cotwall.
Aye.
Batson.
Aye.
Benjamin.
Aye.
Carmichael.
Aye. Okay, very good. Motion passes. My mother is calling me right at this moment. I'm just going to have to tell her no. All right, moving on.
She wants to sign up for app development.
Yeah. Communication platform recommendation. Mary, I'm guessing this is going to you.
Yes, thank you.
Employment
Oh, did I miss one?
employment employee.
Oh,
Yeah.
very good. I missed employment of employees. So these are employees that were added after the PNP meeting. So-
Correct. You had some on the consent board agenda, and these were added after the committee meeting.
Can I have a motion to approve the employment of employment items as listed?
Hessel, so moved.
Batson, second.
Carol, roll call.
Hessel.
Aye.
Cotwall.
Aye.
Batson.
Aye.
Benjamin.
Aye.
Carmichael.
Aye.
Drumkey.
Aye.
Okay, as I am very anxious to get to the communication platform recommendation, let's turn that over to Mary Todrick.
Thank you again. At the committee meetings earlier this month, I had an opportunity to give all of you a comprehensive review of the robust process that we've gone through in vetting several vendors to not only redesign our websites, but also help us in consolidating all of our communication tools and ultimately saving us some money in doing that. There were some questions brought up at the committee meetings, and I had a conversation with Final Site, which is the vendor that we are working with to hopefully move forward. One of the concerns was that we were paying them too quickly up front, and we wanted to see some tangible evidence of the product and the process. And they were able to move 2 of the initial payments to they would be due in January and February. We would be starting this process, if you approve it tonight, we'll start tomorrow. So we will definitely have some things to look at by then. And they also have agreed to discount our first year by $3,150, which is the cost of our annual subscription to S'more, which is our newsletter platform that we use. Just helping us ease that transition because we have a lot of users on board with that, and getting them up to speed without, changing everything immediately. So I believe that's everything. There was also a question about parent and staff and student feedback on the platform. And we have a draft of a survey that will also be ready to roll out immediately to get all kinds of feedback on everything related to the websites.
Don Carmichael.
Very good. Can I have a motion to approve the revised contract with Final Site as presented?
Batson, so moved.
Hessel, second.
Is there any other discussion or conversation there? Very good. Carol, roll call, please.
Cotwall.
Aye.
Batson.
Aye.
Benjamin,
Aye.
Carmichael,
Aye.
Drumkey,
Aye.
Hessel.
Aye.
Motion passes, and that concludes the PMP portion. I will turn it over to Dr. Batson.
Okay. First, or next on the agenda, item E is the levy adoption. And I will turn this over to Dan Stanley for his insight.
All right, we are at the final stage of a multi-month process for our 2024 levy. Just to recap some data for you, in the levy calculation, there's data that we know. Right now, we know CPI is 3.4. We know what our prior year extension is. However, there's in the algebraic formula, there's two variables we won't know until spring, but we have to make a decision now for our levy. And one of those is what the existing EAV is. That right now is projected to go up. You can see nearly 9%. That's probably the biggest valuation increase I think I've ever seen for this community, at least in my tenure here. And then what we also won't know for sure is the new property, but right now the estimate is at about 13.9 million. And what new property mostly means is that's mostly people renovating their homes. So when permits are pulled and they're making improvements to their homes, or when businesses are being built for the first time. So based on all of those, we've estimated that our extension is going to be 99.3 million. And so that would mean for the average homeowner, relative to their increase in tax, relative to their increase in valuation, their average increase will be 3.4%, which is based on CPI. And the total increase would be the 3.8, which is based on the new property that comes on the books. So our levy at this point is 99.561 million that you see there, and in the documentation that we have there. That allows for a $300,000 cushion in case two of those two variables that we don't know yet, in case those are slightly off. We're accounting for that, and I feel very comfortable with that. So that means that our levy is a 4.09% increase. But what we think is that we're going to be at more of a 3.78 is what our estimate is coming in. So then the timeline, at our FNF meeting, we reviewed the estimate. At the board meeting, we had the information as well. And also at our last committee meeting, we reviewed it. And then tonight would be the adoption. And then tomorrow, we will file this at the county. And one other part that is a required disclosure is the disclosure of our balances. So I've got this information here and included. The one in the packet online, I think, has September balances, but after I had already finished that, we had gotten October balances, so I've got that here as well. That's a required disclosure. So that's the information for our 2024 levy.
Jim Batson.
Okay, let's start with a motion in a second.
Carmichael, move to approve the 2024 tax levy as presented.
Kotwal, second.
Okay, we have a motion. Any additional comments or questions by any of the board members?
No. Thank you, Dan.
Yeah, thank you, Dan. We've gone through this a number of times, and always very well presented and very well understood by us anyway. So, and I encourage, if anyone's interested in seeing more detail, to go back and look at the recordings from, especially the meeting earlier in the month was quite detailed. So, hearing no other comments, roll call, please.
Batson.
Aye.
Benjamin.
Aye.
Carmichael.
Aye.
Drumkey.
Aye.
Hessel.
Aye.
Cotwall.
Aye.
Motion passes. And last on the action items, a 5-year Pepsi agreement.
Dan Stanley.
Yeah, so this is an agreement that we've been working on for a while. We've been with Coke for many years, but our contract is up, and so we sent out a request for proposal and got info from both Pepsi and Coke. And after reviewing those, we believe Pepsi is the one that we would like to go with for a 5-year agreement. This is really before the board because it's not something you spend money on as a district. Most of our contracts are about buying services. This one is actually about a company giving the district money. And so this is required by state law because it's designed to generate more than $1,000 in revenue for the district. And so that's the agreement. And yeah, that's all I have.
Okay.
The upside for naysayers is that Gatorade is on this one.
Gatorade is very popular, and that is owned by Pepsi. Yes.
Jim Batson.
Okay. We do a motion yet? No, we need a motion in a second.
Carmichael moved to approve the agreement with PepsiCo Beverage Sales LLC as presented.
Drumkey, second.
Okay, any additional questions, comments from the board? Again, this was reviewed earlier in the month. It looks like an appropriate change. Roll call, please, Karen.
Benjamin,
Aye.
Carmichael,
Aye.
Drumkey,
Aye.
Hessel,
Aye.
Cotwall,
Aye.
Batson.
Aye. Motion passes. Moving on into the information section, we're going to get an update on our Illinois school report card data.
Dr. Tom Kulentes.
Yes, thank you. My colleagues, Charlotte Eames and Larry Varn from our Department of Teaching and Learning are with me tonight, and we will present information about our district report card. This is the third meeting where we're taking some time to dive into student academic achievement, and this presentation will focus specifically on the measures the State Board of Education uses to monitor school performance across the state. Each year in October, the Illinois State Board of Education releases the school and district report cards for all public schools. And we're going to share our results tonight. Our focus tonight is really on helping the board and the community understand the formulas that go into creating our overall rankings and our designation. And we will touch upon some of the things we're doing. I think our theme for tonight is twofold. One is celebration for some really extraordinary work across our school system. And second, continuous improvement. How are we going to continue to grow and evolve our programs to continue to maintain the high level of excellence that we expect from our school system? So we'll touch upon the latter, and we'll dig in to some of the data that we've received tonight. So I'm going to turn it over here to my colleagues, Charlotte and Larry.
Larry Varn.
Thank you, Tom. Each year, high schools in Illinois receive a summative designation. These designations for high schools are slightly different in how they're calculated from elementary and middle schools. So this circle here, this pie chart identifies those areas of which the state utilizes and evaluates our data to determine what our summative designation will be. Each indicator is weighted, meaning that it's worth a different number of total possible points, which is shown in this pie chart. For high schools in Illinois, 75% of our score comes from academic indicators, the largest of those being graduation rates, making up 50% of that, and the other 25% being split between our proficiency scores by area. The other 25% of our score is made up from school quality and student success indicators. They are shown in the shades of yellow there. So that is how every school in Illinois is evaluated and assigned one of 5 summative designations, ranging from exemplary to intensive, with exemplary meaning that the school is in the top 10% of all high schools statewide.
Charlotte Eames.
So, as has been said numerous times tonight, we're very excited that both Libertyville and Vernon Hills High Schools achieved exemplary status again this year. So, as Mr. Varn just said, exemplary schools are in the top 10% of all schools in the state. In addition to that, exemplary schools have a graduation rate higher than 67%. And they have no student groups performing below the all students group of the lowest performing 5% of schools. So the images you're seeing on the screen here, these are images taken directly from each school's report card. These show how many total points each school scored out of 100. That's kind of in the top part, right under the flag, shows the school's score out of 100 points. And it also tells us how many points scored in each category. And so those will, if you look at the denominators there, those will add up to 100. Those are the weighted scores for those different indicators. So we're going to go through each of those indicators in a little bit more depth
to fully understand what goes into each of those. But again, we really want to celebrate that exemplary status. There are only 65 schools, high schools in the state of Illinois who have achieved that status, and our schools are two of them. So it is a pretty amazing achievement, and we are very proud.
Charlotte, can I just make one little add info-wise there? There are about 800 high schools in the state of Illinois accredited by the IHSA, and there are about 157 high schools within the Chicago Public Schools that account for that, toward that total. So that means there's approximately 643 public high schools, and so that number, I'm very proud of it. I think it underscores really precisely how exemplary our schools are. So just wanted to kind of clarify that even more.
Thank you.
Yeah, and sticking with that theme of celebration, we just want to highlight here as well, there are outstanding schools, some of the best schools in the state and in the nation that are in this graphic. And we just wanted to position Libertyville and Vernon Hills here in particularly amongst what are outstanding schools, and really to emphasize it is very difficult to earn an exemplary status because the state doesn't hold us to one indicator. So it's not just test scores that determine our status. The state is saying a school's value or a school's ranking should be on multiple measures, and you have to have high performance in all of these areas. So we have done very well across the board in these. Some of our neighbor schools are extremely accomplished schools, may have one or two indicators that are slightly lower, and that might be why they're at a commendable status rather than exemplary. But it just gives you a picture of where our two schools are, both at the state level and in our local kind of peer group.
Charlotte Deems.
Okay, so we're going to go through each little piece of the pie, which these are the indicators we saw on previous slides, and the same indicators we also saw in the little schoolhouse a couple slides back. So we're seeing that in a couple of different ways, but we're going to look at each piece of the pie. And so we're going to start with graduation rate. This is our largest factor in determining our summative designation. And this graduation rate formula is comprised of the 4, 5, and 6-year graduation rate. And 60% of the score comes from the 4-year, 30% from the 5-year, and 10% from the 6-year to give us our overall score in that category. So on the report card itself, if you log into the report card, you'll be able to view the 4, 5, and 6-year graduation rate, as well as trends, as well as disaggregated data. What I want to report tonight is that LHS had a 96% 4-year graduation rate, and VHHS had a 97% 4-year graduation rate in 2024. So these are amazing graduation rates. And with those, both schools earned the maximum number of points toward their summative designation score in this category. So essentially 50 out of 50 possible points. Something that's important to understand when we look at graduation rates is that we will typically never see a 100% 4-year graduation rate. And that is because under IDEA, our district provides extended transition services for students who are eligible for them via an IEP. So we are very proud of the transition services that we provide here in District 128. But what this means is that some students stay with us until they are 22 years old. And so they may graduate after 7, 8, or 9 years. And so I wanted to point that out because we don't want to give the impression that if we have a 96% graduation rate, that 4% of our students have dropped out. That's really more accounted for in students who are staying with us and receiving transition services.
Pause for slide.
Okay, the next chunk we're going to do a little bit together and a little bit separate. So these three pieces of the pie that are highlighted here are all about our proficiency. And together they account for 20% of our summative designation score. So taken as a whole, that's the next biggest chunk, even though each piece really is its own thing. These proficiency rates are based on 11th graders' scores on the SAT in math and English, and on the Illinois Science Assessment in science. These tests were taken in April of 2024, and both schools earned the maximum number of points toward their summative designations in all three of these proficiency areas. We dug deep into our proficiency for 9th and 10th graders 2 weeks ago. So we will take a little extra time this evening to dig into each of these proficiency scores as well to more fully understand them. So there's a whole lot going on this slide, but the reason that I want to show this is exactly what you will see when you go to the report card. So I didn't create this. The state of Illinois did. So this is the view you're going to get. And there are multiple ways to play with this on the report card, to look at trends in disaggregated groups, to you can just look at a few years if you want to. But I want to show this view to show what we are seeing when we go to the report card and look at our trends on this. This one is on the English portion of the SAT. So to get a proficiency rate, we have to add together the two green bars. So that's what you kind of see running there in the gray. So those represent students who have met or exceeded benchmarks. So again, this is based on the evidence-based reading and writing portion of the SAT. And something that we have been talking about a little bit is we've seen some decrease in our proficiency since COVID. And you can see that that is happening to a degree statewide as well. You see the state bars are the halfway down the screen, and D128 bars are the top of the screen. So we do see that there is some downward trend here. And we are currently, with our 2024 proficiency rate, about 13 points from the highest proficiency rate, which we achieved in 2018, with about 75% of our students achieving proficiency. So as we get further and further from the COVID years, we do have to ask ourselves, why are we still lagging behind? Why are we still kind of on this downward trend? And so that's something that we are digging deep into and investigating, and there may be numerous reasons. One is our changing district environment. We're going to talk about English learners in a little more depth in a few slides, but our English learner group has grown significantly in the past few years. And these students, while incredibly capable of meeting proficiency in English and math, they are required to take the test in English. And many of them are not yet speaking the language. So we do see that having an effect. And we point this out not to make excuses for what we're seeing in the data. That's not what we want to do by disaggregating at all. But we point it out because in order to understand what's happening and to address it, we have to understand the wider context of what's going on in our district. And a changing population is part of that wider context. There may be other reasons as well, and we will talk later in the presentation about some of the things we are doing to address some of the reasons why we think we are seeing this downward trend.
Would you be able to provide details on some of these data points that you're considering? Like how many, you're saying that the English learners have increased by what percentage?
Yeah,
right? Because I'd like to see that how that is affecting the data over a trending time.
Yeah, so we have a slide devoted to English learners in a few slides, but in the short of it is in the past 3 years, our English learner population has grown by 200%. So this number
That
of
doesn't
students.
address my question, right? Like how much is it a percentage of the total population? Because increasing from 13 to 26, just for example, it can be 200%, but the total population considered, it's not as much. So
Correct.
we
Yes.
can't attribute it all to that.
Absolutely. So it's about 5.6% district wide, but a huge increase from less than 2% just 3 years ago. So it is making a difference in our population.
Not to the
I think it
extent
was
that we
even
are
closer to
seeing, right?
1% 5 years ago. So I think our EL population was closer to 1% 5 years ago, and now you're up to 5.
And so when we can we go to our next one? So there are lots of ways that we can look at our data, and our teams are doing that frequently. One of the things we're seeing that is of interest to all of us in education is looking at performance on students with the SAT. We see, just to put ourselves again into context, that most of the schools around us, in fact, all of our peer groups, have seen a decrease in their SAT English scores since 2017. And so there are a number of complicated factors that are that are affecting this, including the COVID pandemic, greater number of EL students moving to our state, and shifting thoughts from students about the importance of standardized test scores and college admissions, specifically how many students take the SAT versus the ACT. So all of that are factors that are real, but they lie outside of our school's control. And so we know that we have the ability to take action at the school level, and we do believe these trends can be addressed over time through many of the curriculum efforts that we're making. We are working across our district to expand access to a more rigorous curriculum. We're developing co-teaching and inclusion practices for special service students and EL students. That is a model, instead of pulling students out and placing them in classes that are just for special service or EL students, we are integrating those students into what would be considered a gen ed environment, providing support through a co-teacher and providing access for these students to greater rigor. The research is showing that this is one of the ways that you begin to improve your outcomes for your EL learners and your special service students. We are also beginning a formal curriculum review process with our core academic areas to ensure full alignment with college readiness indicators as measured by the ACT. So test scores are an important measure for us. It's not the only thing we look at, and they're kind of a lagging indicator of the curriculum work that we're doing. But we are focused on this trend, and we are taking what we believe are proactive actions designed to begin to impact this trend and begin to see higher score trends.
Charlotte Deems.
Okay, so this is not a repeated slide. This is a similar slide to what we saw for English, now for math. And the story is much the same. So again, we're seeing that we had a decrease in proficiency with post-COVID, and that's remained fairly steady. It hasn't started to go back up. So this is, again, something that we are focusing on and looking into in a deeper way. Just like ELA, our highest proficiency year was in 2018 with a 74.8% proficiency rate. In 2024, it was 60.6. So we do see the state comparison there, but we haven't yet come back to where we were in those pre-COVID years. So part of what we are working on with many of our teaching and learning efforts.
Charlotte, can I ask a question when we're looking at the trends? I know, and I kind of pointed this out earlier, or tried to discuss it earlier. These are last year's tests before we created our new MTSS model. And I know tonight is not the night to do an in-depth conversation about what's working, what's not working, but noticing the trend when we're discussing this, when you're discussing this in your content, your teacher content area teams, it has to be under the umbrella of what are we doing now to try to bring these up, right? Because this is last year's before we've made these changes. So how are we evaluating what we're doing? That is, I think that's what I know that's what I want to hear more on coming forward. I know that, and this is commendable, and our students have always been high achieving, and we've invested, our community has invested in our students almost double of what our Illinois students are, the average Illinois student. So we kind of expect this, and this is in line with our historic performance, except we're seeing this decrease. So I know that when we speak about this again, we need to be speaking about it in what are we doing now to increase it with all of the changes that we made.
Yes, it's very much many of the changes we were making last year were in response to this trend. So specifically the 9th grade heterogeneous class changes that we were making was specifically designed to get more of our students into what we considered more rigorous courses. The academic intervention supports that we put in place were designed to try to support students as they moved into those classes. So now we are definitely evaluating those efforts and how they are supporting students, and we're working not only to review student data, but to check in with our teachers as well. We've had it, though, of course, for less than a semester. So we are beginning to not just evaluate that in the near term, like how's it working, but also it'll take us some time to see how these changes, right, play out through our system. But that's why we talk about our STAR scores and our what will convert to the pre-ACT. Those give us measures with our freshman classes and our sophomore classes where we could start to see those trends over time and hopefully start to see that our students are making more progress towards proficiency than we were seeing before. Those efforts
next year, when we're sitting here next year, or the new board is sitting here next year, we're going to be comparing. It's going to be hard to tease out what exactly was most effective because we don't know if it's placement, support, or identification through EOS, right? So that's going to be the challenge, is teasing out what actually is working if we can see an improvement.
Right, and we also must remember that
and there's a different
And
test.
there's a new test.
There's a new test, and it's a different group of students. And we must remember that our students are multivariate. And when you look at the schools, if we go to the next slide, Dan, when you look at the schools here, again, all of our peer schools are seeing a downward trend in math. So this is something that we're experiencing with our students right now. And every one of those schools is doing something different. So the ones that are ahead of us are doing something different. Some have block schedules, some have individual, like period schedules. Some have different levels of courses than we do. Some use different curriculum than we do. So we study all of that, but there is not a single answer other than one that we don't accept, which is if we really want to just focus on test scores with our students, we would test prep the heck out of them. That is not something that our district believes in. That is not something that we think is in our students' best interest long-term. So we are focused on what are the factors that influence student success over time, and how can, as we conclude this presentation, we'll talk about our big picture for our district. And test scores are important to us because, as we talked about before, they are used by the state as a measure, and our students use them for accessing post-secondary options, right, and scholarships. So they are always going to be a focus of ours, but rather than be our primary mission, they are always going to be more of a byproduct of a really strong, outstanding curriculum. And that's where our focus and our work is.
Middleish Cotwell.
I really appreciate you saying that, because what we need to do is look at big picture. Typically, standardized tests are a test of taking a test.
Yes.
Right. But how are we focusing on through our support structures to improve these scores? Throughout, if you look at all the slides, the data that was there pre-COVID and post-COVID, that definitely we've seen that COVID has had an impact on student learning, because it's not just our school. Right. It's other schools that have also seen the falling grades. But I would highly encourage you to look at the path forward and not look at dissecting the population to see this is the reason our English learners have grown, because that's, even in the grand scheme of things, 3% increase cannot attribute to a 14-point decrease in the scores.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we should look at our support structures, how are we enhancing that, and focus on the path forward.
Yep.
That's what I would highly encourage you.
That's great, because that's where our focus certainly is. So thank you for that. We can move to our next slide on science, because it's interesting. We see a different trend line with science.
Yes, so it's a very similar view, although it does look a little bit different because it is a different test. So the science proficiency is based on the Illinois Science Assessment, or ISA. This is not part of the SAT. This is a test created by the state of Illinois to comply with the conditions required to receive federal funds. So this test will be eliminated this year, as the ACT contains its own science portion. So previously, the SAT covered math and English, and we had this different science assessment. So we're not seeing pre-COVID numbers here. This is the view the report card gives us. It looked a little bit different pre-COVID. The benchmarking was different, but we are seeing a slightly different trend there. As Tom mentioned, we had kind of a bump up in 2022, so it's been a little bit up and down, but we have achieved 77% proficiency in science in 2024.
And if we can go to the next slide, it's curious because here, every single district around us has shown an increase in science. So while most of our districts around us were a little bit down in English and math performance, our science has been increasing. Notably here, though, we're very proud because D128 science scores are at the top of our peer group comparisons. So
Lisa Hessel.
Did I catch that there will be one fewer state assessment in our buildings next year?
that is correct. As a reminder, because the state is moving to the ACT next year, we no longer have to give the Illinois Science Assessment. That we will give the ACT, which contains a science portion, and that will satisfy the state requirement for the science. So that is a good thing because our juniors will only need to test on one day rather than on 2 days like they have currently been.
You know, one thing I didn't ask, just for my own education, how does that affect the PSAT for the earlier grades? If we're moving to an ACT.
Right. So they have to now take what's called the pre-ACT.
So they do have a so it's the same.
Yes. Now that test has, we've just administered that. That's a new test just created. And so one of the things that we have to do is we will be recreating like our data sets. And we will be spending a lot of time this spring trying to learn what these pre-ACT tests are. We have familiarity with the ACT, but we have to learn what these pre-ACTs are.
The downside with that is the current juniors didn't have the opportunity to take that
is
test
correct.
last year or the year before.
Yeah, this changed over the summer, basically.
Is it like the Explore test of old days? We don't know.
We don't know. And I mean, we had the Explorer and the plan and then the ACT, and then you had work keys in that. And so we're waiting to see what this test is. They're supposed to have predictability though, right? So how a student does on the pre-ACT 8-9 should lead to a prediction for the 10, which to the ACT.
Jim Batson.
It's something that I recall from discussion before, though, is we have to remember that all these numbers are based on a benchmark that the state sets.
That is correct.
So whatever that benchmark is for the ACT this coming year will determine if we're 70% or 80% or 40%. And everyone will have that same benchmark, but it's not only a different test, but it could be, a very different measurement.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Charlotte Deems.
Okay, the next one says ELPTP, and that stands for English Learner Progress to Proficiency. So this is a measure of the extent to which a multilingual student is on track to reach proficiency within 5 years. And this is based on students' scores on the Access test, which is a test that English learners take in January or February. So this category is worth 5% of the summative designation points. The ELPTP incorporates both the starting point of a student and their unique annual progress. So all students who are English learners have both a static timeline target and a revised annual target, and are scored using the smaller of those two targets while they're within that 5-year timeline. So on this particular indicator, Libertyville earned 3.15 out of the 5 points, and Vernon Hills earned 3.04 out of the 5 points. As we mentioned, our English learner population is the fastest growing student group in our district. In 2021, our English learners made up about 1.9% of our student population, and now they're making up 5.6%. So as I said previously, that's nearly a 200% increase in a matter of 3 years. So even though this is a relatively small piece of the summative designation pie, this is something that we have to pay attention to as the number of English learners in our buildings increases, and we need to ensure that they are making progress and moving toward proficiency.
So Charlotte, just so I understand what this really means in
Kara Drumkey.
in a real sense, are we saying that most of our ELL students, based on this, has about a 50% propensity to be on target within 5 years if they got a 3? What does that mean? A 3,
So
4 out of 5 points?
Yeah, so the formula for this one is incredibly complex, and I can follow up with you with some information from the business rules, but this one is quite in depth for how it's scored.
Okay.
Kara Drumkey.
Is that
Momentary pause.
would you expect schools to be at that above that 3% or 3% point system? I mean,
Not necessarily. I mean, that's the hope. Of course, the hope is always that we're getting all the points. I have clicked on many district and school report cards in the past month, and I have not seen a single school who has achieved all 5 of those points. I think that it is an incredibly difficult indicator to get the full points on.
What's not a difficult measure, though, for us is looking at student access scores. And we have all of our EL students in our system, and we know their access score, and that is tied to their level of English proficiency. And we are able to carefully monitor student growth with that, and really make sure that our EL curriculum is leading to our students developing their English proficiency at a rate we would expect. So when it comes to the state report card, the measure is very convoluted with a formula that we're still working to understand. But when it comes to our own internal assessments of our students, we have a very clear understanding of the progress that's being made.
And if you track it over a period of time, how is that trending?
That is trending in a positive direction where students are making more than a year's worth of progress in a year of time in our district.
So this access scores, at least our internal measure, we are saying this is improving.
Yes. So it's about where does a student, you start with where do I come into the school? So I might come in speaking no English, and then we would be able to track that student over time to eventually exit our program to be at what would be considered English proficiency. Or I might come into the school almost at proficiency, like it's scored out of 5. So a student who speaks no English would be like a 1, and a student who is native like English proficiency would be at a 5. So we're able to track our progress of students who come in as a 1 and how quickly we move them up, and a student who comes in at a 4, how quickly we move that student as well.
No, so my question was a little bit different. If you track this one, even whether it is our own internal tracking, are we saying over the last 3-4 years, wherever we are tracking it, is it improving or is it going in the opposite direction for the English learners?
I would say that's improving, but I would have to verify that. But my belief is that our access data, the last time I reviewed it, was strong in indicating that students were moving towards proficiency.
I'd like to know the details on that, because we just attributed the other measures decreasing to this population not improving fast enough, or this population also increasing, yet we are showing that they are improving at a better rate right now. So I don't see the correlation, and forgive me for being stuck on that point, but it is rattling me right now.
Yeah.
And I really need to know the details of it.
When a student meets proficiency, though, on the access test, they're essentially they're about the 8th grade level of English proficiency. That's about what a 5 equates to. So you could be a student and you could get a 5 on the access test, but then you sit for the SAT, and the SAT is a college level test given in English. And if you look at the writing test in the SAT and things like that, it is in language that is at the academic level of college. So students can be advancing in our access test and developing English proficiency and still not be demonstrating proficiency on the SAT.
Okay.
Yeah. But we can go into depth on that at another time if you would like.
And I
appreciate
think
that.
I want to just make sure I'm clear that as you mentioned before, that the English learners were not the only reason
No.
we're attributing to.
But that's the only reason
decrease.
mentioned. That's why I'm
That
stuck
was an
on that one
example.
reason.
I think that we shouldn't necessarily get hung up on that as being, that's not the only reason we've identified as with these trends. It was just an example. So I don't mean to diminish Middle Ash your comment, but it's just to make sure that there's other things that we feel have contributed to that. And
Absolutely.
And the comparison between this and that is sort of apples and oranges because it's comparing two different.
And we are looking at all of our student subgroups and how they're performing. Earlier tonight, our students with an IEP have been mentioned, our low income students. We look at our students of color. So all of that is contributing to our trends, and we are taking actions to address that.
And other things like absenteeism and things like that.
Yes.
Charlotte Deems.
Okay, we're going to move into the yellow pieces of pie. So the first one is chronic absenteeism. This makes up 10% of our summative designation score. And chronic absenteeism refers to students who miss more than 10% of the school year, whether that is excused or unexcused. So this counts all student absences, and any student who has been absent for more than 10% of the school year is chronically absent, and this is how we get this score. High chronic absenteeism is an ongoing challenge throughout the state, something that massive efforts have been put toward at the state level. These rates again have not returned to their pre-COVID levels. In good news, though, chronic absenteeism rates do appear to be declining slowly but surely at this point in time. We have quite a ways to go to reach our pre-COVID rates, but there have been improvements. So LHS earned 7.04 out of 10 points, and their chronic absenteeism rate was 14.9% in 23-24. Vernon Hills earned 6.89 out of these 10 points. Their chronic absenteeism rate was 15.8% in 23-24. So I know those do sound high. They are still pretty high, working toward getting that down. We are making improvements there, and attendance and chronic absenteeism is a large focus of the MTSS efforts that we have going on right now, and the support that's coming from our LSTs. So something we are continuing to work on, as we have been for the past few years. And again, statewide issue that the state has put a lot of resources and time and effort into, also trying to figure out and to get kids back in school.
Pause for slide.
Okay, the next one is ninth grade on track. Ninth grade on track is worth 8.33% of each school's summative designation. And this refers to the percentage of ninth grade students who have earned at least 5 full year course credits or 10 semester credits and have earned no more than 1 semester F in a core course. So English, math, science, social studies. Course credits from summer sessions are not included in this calculation. Ninth grade on track is a key predictor of high school success. In this category, both schools came very close to earning the full points, with LHS earning 7.88 and VHHS earning 7.76.
And one curriculum kind of systemic improvement we've made this year is that all of our foundational districts, District 70, 73, Oak Grove, and round out the assistant superintendents or the district curriculum leaders from these districts are now meeting quarterly with me and members of teaching and learning to ensure that we have active coordination and collaboration between our districts on curriculum matters. So this articulation had not been in place in recent years, but it's something that we've restored. Earlier tonight, we heard about District 70's report. Dr. Carrie Bongle is a person who is meeting with me, and we're sharing our data. We're talking about the curriculum work that's happening between all of our systems to try to create greater coordination of efforts to make sure that they're aware of the data we're seeing and we're aware of the efforts they're making to try to make sure that there's a good seamless transition between our foundational schools and our high school.
Jim Batson.
It seems to me that this is one of the indicators that has actually gone up from pre-COVID times. And to me, this is a leading indicator, sort of expecting that these, it's a good trend because these students are going on to, in several years, take that ACT, so it's sort of, boding well for how these students will achieve as they flow through the system.
Yeah, students who have a strong freshman year tend to have a strong high school career. Students who struggle freshman year, it can be difficult to get them back to really strong performances after.
Momentary pause.
And then the last indicator there, Charlotte, is our climate survey,
yes,
right?
the last piece of the pie. We've eaten almost the whole pie now. The last one is the climate survey, and worth 6.67 points. This is based on the 5 essentials survey that we give around March each school year. And this score is based solely on our student participation in that survey. So in 2024, all students were invited and provided time to complete the survey. This one is also challenging to achieve the full points because in order to get 6.67 points, we must have a 95% student response rate. That is extremely difficult. So we do want to congratulate Vernon Hills because they did it in 2024. Vernon Hills did it. They reached their 95% response rate and got their full 6.67 points. Libertyville didn't quite get there, but they did really well and improved from the year before. And they earned 4.68 out of 6.67. So we're going to keep working on improving those response rates. So students who are listening, we invite you to participate in this survey when we put it out in the spring.
Pause for slide. Larry Varn.
Okay, so we have heard a lot about the summative designation and how that is calculated. We're going to transition now into looking at our equity journey continuum. This score is only reported by district. There is no school level score. ISBE only looks at the district-wide piece of it. And that's because they really are looking at equity in a way of what are we doing as a system and how our districts meeting the needs of our various students to close gaps. The equity journey continuum looks at where our dominant students are and compares them to our subgroups that include students with IEPs, English learners, by race and by low income. And so looking at how those subgroups compare to our dominant students. Now, while this does not make up a part of our summative designation score, it is an important part of our district report card and an important way for us to measure some of the commitments that District 128 has made to equity. The equity journey continuum demonstrates areas where our district may need to alter systems, increase access, add resources, or seek supports to ensure students from all backgrounds can achieve the same high standards as their peers. There are 3 areas in the equity journey continuum. There's student learning, learning conditions, and elevating educators. We first saw the continuum in 2022. It's important that you realize that this data lags behind a year even from the report card data. So what we're looking at this year is data from 2022, 2023. So it's different from the school report card data. Here, you see what each metric is for those three areas that the equity journey continuum is measuring. When it is divided into these three core areas: student learning, student learning conditions, and elevated educators, each which focuses on distinct aspects of the educational experience with key metrics to measure progress and identify opportunities for improvement. What we have done in District 128 in the purple boxes is really highlight what we are doing this year to impact specific metrics in these three areas. So under student learning, one of the things that we're looking at is advanced academic programs. How are students having access, equal access to our advanced level courses? That was a lot of the work that we did with EOS and with APA, making sure that students of all backgrounds have equal access into our advanced level courses. Under learning conditions, we are evaluating the climate survey, especially looking at our supportive environment ratings. This year's focus for the district has been on belief and belonging, making sure that all of our students feel a sense of connection to our schools and that our staff are promoting students' belief that all students can achieve at high levels and that they belong in all settings. So we are working on that this year. And this year we've implemented our check-ins with students, our SEL check-ins, where we are constantly measuring how our students are reporting a sense of support in our environment. Our LSTs are also working on student attendance to continue to drive down that chronic absenteeism rate by identifying and targeting students who are chronically absent and putting in place attendance interventions to support them. And then under elevating educators, as we begin to look at our hiring season in the spring, it continues to be a priority for our district to evaluate the diversity within our administrator positions as well as our educator demographics. So that's why we do those things.
Pause for slide.
And so our district really was in the forefront of the equity journey continuum when we created our racial equity, diversity, and inclusion policy. The things that the state of Illinois is measuring in the equity journey continuum really do align with the things that we as a district decided we were going to be committed to and the metrics that we were going to use to evaluate those things. So here we wanted to show you how those things support the equity journey continuum. And when you get those updates on our policy, it really is reflected in the equity journey continuum from the state.
Pause for slide.
And here are our ratings for this year. The equity journey continuum is really broken up into steps. Think of those steps sort of like grades. You have A, B, C, but within a A could range anywhere between 93 to 100 is still an A. Within these steps, our district ranges may change, but we're still within that step. And so we have always been at around the same area in these groups. We did see that from last year to this year, there was a change in the student learning, moving from small gaps to moderate gaps. But we do believe that there's an error in the data from ISB, much like it was last year. So we may bring this back to you after we have confirmed with ISB that there's an error in that data there. And that should be a shift. But our other areas continue to remain in the steps that we had seen historically.
Dr. Tom Kulentes.
So as we move forward, there was mentioned tonight the goal of our district is to constantly think about ways that we can get better and better over time. The state is doing the same, and next year's report card will have some differences. As we discussed, proficiency next year will be based on ACT, and we are taking steps to prepare our students for this new assessment. But again, we're uncertain exactly, for some of the reasons Dr. Batson mentioned, on how it'll impact our overall performance. Our summative designation pie that Charlotte kind of served up for us will also be getting some new slices next year. Both college career readiness, which we have largely organized under our Exploring Multiple Paths strategic plan goals. That college career readiness will be part of our official state report card that we'll be evaluated on. We think we are very well positioned to perform well there. And fine arts indicators are currently slated to be part of the summative designation. Specifically, how many students are participating in the fine arts and what is the quality of our fine arts instructors across the district. So those will be two measures that will be added to our summative designation. They have not yet been assigned weights, so we don't know the full impact this will have on our summative score. But one thing we as a district may want to have a conversation about is adding and considering the addition of a fine arts requirement to our graduation requirements. Currently, this is not something in place, but it may be something we as a board wish to consider as the state puts weight and emphasis on our students having experiences in the arts. Finally, something that is a positive in terms of data assessment, Charlotte and her team have been working to build out data models, but the state is creating a student growth percentile measure. This is something they haven't had before, and districts have had to create their own. Now, the state report card for the first time will have student growth percentiles. That's going to help us, Middlesh, to your concerns, really zero in on how our students are growing over time. That'll be a measure that we'll be excited to use because we think that is one we could really put a lot of support in, because rather than an isolated one kind of snapshot of a student progress or performance, this shows progress over time, and that'll be a valuable measure for us.
Momentary pause.
Finally, just want to conclude with some of our immediate actions this year. Some of these were mentioned already, but the report card and the equity journey continuum helps us identify areas in our system where we do want to intensify some of our school improvements efforts. So as mentioned, our data team will be working to build student growth models with new ACT data, and really taking a look at how pre-ACT to ACT kind of is slated to show student growth and predicted growth that we can measure. We continue to say the best way to increase student test scores is through access to rigorous curriculum. So you are aware of the efforts we're making to do that. And we've had our department chairs and our teaching and learning teams actively working to explore what is happening now and what we need to do with our curriculum moving forward as we create a true curriculum review cycle that would lead us to a constant process of assessing our curriculum and making adjustments to address student performance. Our EL numbers, as we've talked about a lot, continue to grow. One of the biggest things we're doing there is really establishing a formal EL program with co-taught teaching and looking to add to our EL instructional staff. That is not a big portion of our staff right now that has EL certification. So we're working with Bryant's office to develop the ways to incentivize staff to get EL certification, and our hiring process will put a focus on that. And then finally, our MTSS process is digging into student suspensions and student absences to provide more proactive support and interventions when students begin to demonstrate a challenge. And we do that through our MTSS data. I just want to conclude with the sense that we are very proud of our exemplary status, but at the same time, we wish to remind our community that we hold ourselves to a higher standard than the state accountability measures. In District 128, our students are more than a test score. So we're working to create daring students who are learning to live healthier, happier, and higher performing lives. And as you heard from the student reports tonight, we are proud of their athletic accomplishments. We are proud of their activities. We are proud of all of the fine arts programs that are happening. And we're committed to making sure that their health and well-being is improving through our strategic plan efforts and our SEL efforts. We're committed to helping them feel that they truly believe in their abilities and belong in our schools through our equity and inclusion efforts. And we are working to ensure that every single one of our students is able to identify personal and individualized journeys to meaningful post-secondary pursuits by exploring multiple paths. And that's why we're expanding the dual credit opportunities and all of the non-four-year college pathways. We measure the progress in each of these areas and will continue to share important data with you, our Board of Education, throughout the school year.
Jim Batson.
Thank you very much. That's quite a bit of information to try to get through and try to communicate. I certainly appreciate it. If anyone, I'm sort of a data nerd in a way, and if anyone's ever sort of gone down the rabbit hole of exploring the state report card, you can get lost in that for hours. So I appreciate being able to create this, relatively concise picture of these data points. So I thank you for that. I know it was a lot of work. So anyone have any further questions or comments?
Pause for discussion and questions.
Well done. Thank you. Moving on. Board comments and events. Anyone have anything?
Do we have any way of sharing with each other what things we're going to be going to at the upcoming conference, like so that we're not all showing up to the same thing?
In the past, I created an Excel spreadsheet that we shared and just shared that with each other. And we certainly, if we had multiple members be interested in the same session, we didn't discourage anybody from doing that. But I think for our own purposes, if we were between, say, two things at the same time and we knew one of our colleagues was attending one of them, it just might help us make a better choice of which to attend. But we've had multiple board members attend the same session, and that's fine too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe I'll just toss a quick spreadsheet out there, and everyone that's attending can identify those key ones that they want to attend.
There's an existing one
Yeah,
that I can
okay.
that you probably already have access to, but I'll be
Okay.
happy to
Yeah.
share.
Is
it.
there
That's a good
any
idea.
OMA violation doing that?
Momentary pause.
It's just information.
You're pushing information out.
Yeah,
You're not
just
discussing
pushing
it.
information out. Yeah, nobody's
Yeah, when
discussing
it
or
comes to scheduling, and we're just sharing that in a document. It
Yeah.
does not create a meeting.
Great.
Yeah, there's no conversation there. Okay. Well, I'll just make a quick comment and what we were discussing, and a part of the IASB report as well, which is the next agenda item this coming weekend. Later this week is the large Illinois Association of School Boards conference that's held jointly with the Illinois Association of School Administrators and Illinois Association of School Business Officials. Thousands of people come to Chicago from all over the state. It's a great learning, great networking opportunity. There's major nationally known presenters giving keynotes. It's just a very, very nice event. And for those of us that are going, we should expect some good learning and some good networking. I will be representing our district at the Delegate Assembly. So as part of this conference, the Delegate Assembly does two things. It's one representative from every district in the state. It's the annual meeting for the association where we vote on bylaws and things like that. And it's also the annual meeting where we review position statements and recommendations for the association in terms of advocating, primarily legislatively advocating for things that are important to us. And that's something that I appreciate and honored to be able to represent our group. We did review a lot of that information at the committee meetings earlier in the month and came to consensus on what that looks like. So I'll be happy to be representing us at that event. So if there's no other items there and no CEDAW report, we got a list of future agenda items here already. going to be talking about budget preparation for next year, so it just seems like it never ends. It just comes right back. Anyone else have any comments on future agenda items?
Pause for discussion.
Okay. And then, so that's it. We have a motion to adjourn.
Carmichael, move to adjourn.
Hessel, second.
We need roll call? All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Okay. Meeting's adjourned. Thank you.
Fade to District 128 logo. End of meeting.